So BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle is coming up, and it's a collaboration between 4 IPs. BlazBlue, of course, and Persona 4 Arena are well-known and respected fighting games, and if you've been on the internet for the past few years, you have definitely heard of Rooster Teeth's series Ruby. But Under Night is kind of the big mystery to a lot of people. Just, what exactly is it?
Well, the game has been kind of unknown outside of Japan for a while now. It was created by FrenchBread, published by ArcSystem, and released in Japanese arcades in 2012. The first American release was in 2015 on the PlayStation 3. No real surprise if you probably missed this one out. But now it's 2018, and we finally were given a release on the PlayStation 4 in February, with next to no promotion at all. Not to mention, Dragon Ball came out and kinda ate its face.
You'd think you capitalize on the cross-tag promotion, but regardless, we're gonna look at the most up-to-date version of the game, Under Night In-BIRTH Exe latest. And Knuckles. Plus Alpha. Yeah, for the sake of this review, we're just gonna call it Under Night.
Is it latest or late ST? It's got the brackets there.
Oh my god, ArcSystems, why do you do this? Under Night is a 1v1 anime fighting game similar to that of BlazBlue or Guilty Gear. It's a 4-button fighter featuring light, medium, and heavy attacks, as well as a special button. Special moves are done with traditional inputs like Fireball Forward, Shoryuken, etc. EX moves can be performed using a heavy variant. There is a burst mechanic similar to that of DBZ or MVZ. Like other anime fighters, attacks flow into each other well, creating a fast-paced combo-focused match with a solid emphasis on neutral.
There's what's known as a grid mechanic, which is basically a tug-of-war in the middle of the match. Your grid meter grows depending on how you use your resources, approach, defend, or even just by charging it. If you have more grid meter than your opponent before the UI makes a complete rotation, you can perform a time cancel, which can be used to extend combos, or stop your opponent in place for a read. You can activate a super by performing a half-circle forward motion into special button using your entire meter, as well as performing an ultimate attack called Infinite Worth. I could continue, but we'd be here all day. This may sound like a lot, but the game does a great job easing you into things as you go.
Now when I pick up a fighting game, one of the first things that draws my attention to it is the roster, and Under Night, it's got quite a unique one. They all feel part of that dark, gothic kind of anime style that games like Darkstalkers or Skullgirls lived in, and I have always really enjoyed that kind of style. It leads to a lot of memorable fighters and characters that make the game stand out. Like Waldstein, one of the first characters I noticed when playing the game. The guy can barely move when dashing, but his arms are so big and go full screen, does he really need the dash? Wagner is pretty much just a Soul Calibur character brought into 2D, so you can tell I gravitate towards her.
Once you dive into the roster and explore what the characters have to offer, it shouldn't be too hard to find one that fits like a glove. I picked up Phonon when the game was first shown off to me, and I knew it was meant to be.
Why do you do this in my videos?
I'm a fan of zoner characters who have large normals that can chain into combos, like Ghost Rider from Marvel vs. Capcom 3. She has the ability to control the fight from a good distance away, forcing the opponent to play her game. It's not too hard to get a double perfect with her.
So much. It was one game, I swear!
I've also been enjoying Ori in this game since I'm a fan of fencer characters with good pokes like Raphael and Soul Calibur. If you have a fight style that suits you as a player, there's a good chance that character is here in some way. Whether it's Linnea's mix-up rushdown style, Hyde's main character style, and Waldstein's giant menacing grapple game. Pro tip, use Waldstein, he's so damn fun.
A fighting game to me lives or dies by its flow, and it's safe to say the flow of Under Night, it feels good. Hits feel great to land, not to mention it has a sense of style and cool factor that makes me want to get better at certain characters. And you know, unlike a lot of modern day fighting games, combos aren't overly long. It takes about 3 or so optimized combos before the player dies, giving the two combatants more than just the first try to get the edge in battle.
What drew me to Under Night was actually how accessible it felt. Fighting game fans fear the term accessibility, but don't misunderstand. This game has its share of complexity, and the better player will most likely win, but the game does a fantastic job teaching you the basics and easing your way up until you reach the most optimized combos and techniques for the game and your character. It's a long journey, and the game makes damn well sure that you know that, but everything you need to learn the game is here, and it's the best learning tool I've seen in a fighting game yet.
Let's put it like this, Tyler and I have been playing this game for about a month, And with that in mind, we invited our friend who isn't too familiar with fighting games to join us. About 30 minutes later with the tutorial and getting the basics down, and he was already having fairly close matches against us. That speaks to this game's accessibility. Though I would say it's probably best you have some kind of fighting game knowledge before heading in. Especially if you're planning to do stuff like the combo trials, because they can very quickly get kind of, insane.
Under Night isn't perfect, however. While I adore the gameplay, the cast of characters, lore, and overall presentation, single player leaves a bit to be desired. There's your basic arcade mode, time attack, and score attack modes. But like other fighters, you can only play this for so much before it gets repetitive. In arcade mode, there is some character interaction, but you won't want to play this repeatedly in the same session, to put it best.
Mainly because, God, the presentation for the visual novel-like scenes is just dull. Now the game itself, oh my goodness, the presentation is great, but you can feel how much of an afterthought these scenes were. Characters have like one pose, barely emote, and this incredibly bland text box just don't make it feel interesting. Games like Skullgirls definitely did this kind of thing better. And what's worse is that Chronicle mode is nothing but these scenes, and they go on for a long time. Safe to say, we didn't bother much with these. And don't get me wrong, the story and character stuff here is great, but man, it could have been presented a lot better. And for casual players, it might be a turnoff that there's no dub, which is a disappointment because in Cross Tag Battle, some of these characters actually were finally given English voices, so it would have been nice to have that in this version of the game.
I found online mode to be a mixed bag. Matches themselves ran practically flawless with my current time playing the game. There was no stuttering, and at worst, I had a match run with a 5-frame delay compared to most matches which have been about 2 or 3 frames. Now that being said, this leads to my biggest issue with the game so far, or more so, the biggest issue surrounding the game in my opinion. There's not really a big player base. Casual lobbies are often non-existent most of the time. At most, I've probably seen 2 rooms at a time. Ranked battles weren't much better either. I can only get paired with about 1 or 2 opponents to pick at a time, leaving all the other player slots to gather dust.
You can probably thank the lack of players due to that silent release. So if you're gonna pick the game up, make sure you have other friends to join you online or locally to get the most out of it. Now that being said, if you're looking for a new fighting game to sink your teeth into, I can recommend you Under Night. It's got a great cast of characters, a great flow to combat, and can make for some fun evenings. And I hope we see more from this franchise in the future, and I pray Cross Tag Battle helps with that.
It's been such a great experience playing this game since I picked it up. My only hope is to see the series grow with the release of Cross Tag Battle. Seeing players use Hyde and Lene, and of course, Gordal. It's been a blast seeing them with other characters like Yu and Ragna and Ruby. So if you like what you see here, or you're just interested in learning more about this series after playing Cross Tag Battle, definitely give this game a try.